All right, guys, picked up the new ride, the new TRX. Just kidding. Today I want to show you something that's awesome. It's not the Bronco Raptor. It's an F-650. This thing is a total unit. If you've not seen one of these trucks, you got to check this out. So let's do this. I feel like the Bronco Raptor for scale is massive, but next to this thing, this is just out of control. Look at the size of this thing. I can't even put in perspective of how big this thing is. And what's wild is this thing has an extra 400 gallons, is what the guy told me, of capacity of fuel, plus DEF. And he actually said, surprisingly, it doesn't use a lot of DEF. These F-650s, I'm trying to understand kind of what they are. They use a 6.7 liter Powerstroke diesel. Some of you guys are probably pretty familiar with these trucks. You might use them day to day. What's the difference of something like this commercial use versus like an F-250, 350, or 450? It's really all about GVW. So in a 650, take a guess what the GVW for a truck like this is. For perspective, an F-350 dually, an F-450 dually, they're at 14,000 GVW. This is a lot higher. So we can kind of see the size of these things. So these are 22.5-inch tires. But if we look at the max tire pressure, 120 PSI. Each one of these tires is 6,600 pounds of capacity. So if you think about that, it's 13.2 times 2, 26,000 pounds of carrying capacity on these two tires on each side and the rear. This thing has had a lot of upgrades and upfitting. Obviously, they don't typically come with the auxiliary tanks on here. That's what's been done. This is a 2017, but it looks brand new. So this thing's had a lot of upgrades. These tanks are part of it, but I was just checking out the inside, getting inside. From a cab configuration, it's very similar. And as you notice, this is not the newest generation of interior, but you can also see the commercially, like how robust this thing is. Like you look at the seat frame, it's got a freaking shock. This thing legit has a shock inside. I mean, this thing, it's got air brakes. I mean, this is insane. Go to the second row, same sort of stuff. I mean, it's all business, but yet the capacity on this thing is just nut. And by the way, if you guys are interested, Gorno Ford in Michigan, I guess this thing's for sale. I was just talking to the guy that helped kind of do a lot of the work and upfitting this thing. You can kind of see the brakes on the back of this. There's your air brakes. Kind of check out the frame rail. I mean, it's nuts. Got a two-piece drive shaft. You still see your after treatment system. Let's look at the rear axle assembly. So this is a third member setup. It's huge. You can see the airbags on it. That's nice. What's interesting is the shocks. Just a standard single shock package. I can't imagine how stiff the valving has to be in those things to hold up to the abuse this truck can put at it. They make the same sort of upfitted setup in a 750 as well. We got in the inside of this thing, you got to step up. I mean, it's a beast, but once you get in it, it's like a regular truck. Nothing about this thing is really that much different. It looks like an XLT interior. No dual climate control, but it's still got upfitters. Two different tanks, that's kind of cool. Actually, I think that's for air suspension. There's for your brakes. But otherwise, all the dash and everything is the same. Nothing else is different. It's like a regular Super Duty. But the real question is, what's the payload for something like this? Take a guess at what this truck weighs, okay? Now, keep in mind, an F-450 dually, diesel, loaded out. So a lot of weight and complexity. GVW is going to be about 14,000 pounds. Approximately curb weight is going to be 14,000 minus 4,700 pounds. So we'll call it approximately 9,300 pounds. Take a guess at what the GVW on this is. Boom, 26,000 pounds. Look at your axle weight ratios. You notice it doesn't really tell a whole lot. This is all part of the upfitting, but this is a 26,000 GVW. So even if this thing weighs, let's say this thing weighs 14,000 pounds, maybe it's even 15,000 pounds. So that would be 6,000 pounds more than an F-450. That means this thing potentially has 10 to 11,000 pounds of payload carrying capacity. And they make a lot of different iterations of this thing as well. So you can get long beds, I guess you can get short beds, they upfit where they put the exhaust in the middle. They do a lot of pretty crazy stuff on these. So if you're looking for something that you could still bumper pull, but you're not interested in a standard 350, 450. Holy cow. As I walk around this truck, you notice how high this thing is. I mean, it's almost over my head. You also notice inside of the cab box, it's pretty much a standard pickup truck on inside. What was surprising is actually it didn't have like a fifth wheel connection point. I'm assuming trucks this big just must do bumper pull or some other like type of pintle hitching. You could see it's running the Michelin tires, and they obviously got a ton of capacity. I want to say these things are around just over 6,100 pounds of capacity for each one of those tires. So you add all that together, 26 in the rear, 14 in the front, that's like 40,000 pounds of tire carrying capacity. As I mentioned, if you're interested in this truck, look up Gorno Ford in Michigan. It is for sale. Hey, hope you enjoy. Just a quick little video of the F-650. This is my first chance at taking a look at one. This is nuts, pretty sweet ride. Thanks for watching.